What's up, Madridistas on YouTube? This is Kiyan Sobhani. It is Monday. I wanted to put something out there for you for the Chelsea game, which is upcoming on Wednesday. And I know a lot of the fan base has some collective anxiety about that game. And I kind of feel it too. Trust me, if you read my article last night, you can understand where my feelings are. You can understand my concerns. And I'm sure many of you guys have the same concerns. So I wanted to get this clip out sooner, but I couldn't. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of not sorry, because if you're subscribed to our content, you would have got this content last week anyway. So just make sure you're subscribed to our podcast on all of our channels. The links are in the show notes. And make sure to read my written article about the Chelsea game, which went up last night on managingmadrid.com. It's pinned on the homepage there. And I really like breaking things down on podcasts and verbalizing things, but there's something special about the written content that I enjoy, and that, I am able to incorporate video analysis into my written content, which I can on YouTube or podcasts. So, I really enjoyed writing the piece last night, even though a lot of it was just concerns and worry. But, I wrote a lot about stats and analytics that jumped out to me heading into this game, and also some video clips that I think are concerning on a tactical level. And I brought a lot of the Chelsea last season tie into the article. And I know a lot of people will say, well, last season has nothing to do with this season. We had a different coach. We had to play a 3-5-2 because we had injuries. I kind of get it, but at the same time, if you really zoom out and look at the team's problems, Manchester City, Ajax, Chelsea, and the themes remain this season, they're the same. It has nothing to do with formations. It has nothing to do with injuries. It's to do with the fact that we haven't figured out how to be press resistant. We're unable to escape our half because we're positionally and physically inferior to our opponent. There has been a huge tactical gap between us and the opposing manager in the last 3-4 years. So all of those things are important to bring up and to surface. And a lot of the themes that we suffered from in the Chelsea two legs last season remain this season. So I broke that all down in my article that went up last night at managingmadrid.com. And what you're about to listen to here is two clips. The first one is Churros y Tácticas, where Diego and I discuss the Chelsea game. And the second clip is from the Managing Madrid Podcast, which Lucas and I also discuss the Chelsea game. So enjoy these two clips. Keep it locked on managingmadrid.com. Don't miss anything we do. See you on Zoom after the Chelsea game. I'm going to be at the game in London. So about 2 hours after the game, once I get home from the press conferences and whatnot, we're going to hop on Zoom. Everyone's invited. If you want the Zoom link, go to patreon.com/managingmadrid. It's important. Get access to that. It'll be therapy or celebration or something in between, but it's super important that you get in on that ASAP to get the Zoom link in advance. Be ready to jump on the call with us. So we'll see you then. Enjoy the clip, and let's get right to it in Hala Madrid. I'm working on a big tactical preview of the Chelsea first leg.
Really? What a surprise. I would have expected that. I thought you would not do anything. I thought you would just be like, whatever.
Well, I actually have not really done anything like that this year.
Really?
I usually do in previous years, yeah.
You don't do much of a build-up?
I don't do much build-up anymore, but I started to realize I was slacking.
It's all about the build-up.
I know. I do a lot of hype on the podcast, but I'd like to do more written content because I've just been writing other things. But anyway, so I actually did the horror show of going back and watching the two games from last season versus Chelsea, and that was really painful to sit through because it just brought back a lot of trauma. And my God, we were so inferior to them over two legs. And it just brought it back. And I hope Carlo would look at that. And because Carlo does this thing where he's like, oh, I didn't know, like this was going to happen. And now we'll adjust for the second leg. I'm like, motherfucker, you can literally go back and watch this exact same thing that's about to happen. Go watch last year's game. Zidane made a bunch of mistakes. Just watch that. And don't say I didn't know. Like, it's your job. Go watch those two games and see. Chelsea are maybe not as good as that they were at that exact time.
Yeah.
But they're still.
Well, you have more of a chance now for sure.
Well, the main thing is Vinicius is better than he was last season. That's the main thing.
And Benzi's on a good streak. This is going to be good. This will be a lot tighter.
It'll be. I hope it would be tighter. I hope.
I mean, if Chelsea should punish you way harsher last season as well, but
they didn't. They couldn't score. They were creating chances without scoring. That was their main thing. And anyways, so the interesting thing about that is that like they've actually, from an efficiency standpoint, they're better at goal scoring this year they're converting chances. But the interesting thing about that is that it has nothing to do with the signing of Lukaku, who was supposed to solve those problems. He's just hasn't been that factor of it. But they are, as a whole, as a team, collectively, they're outperforming their XG now, which they weren't last season.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with Lukaku. But what I would say to this is that the starting 11 thing, I think replicating the Casemiro, Kroos, Modric midfield trio again is basically like shooting yourself in both feet with double barrel shotguns, and then wondering, why can't I walk? I think you need to stop doing that. It's not working. Every time we've gotten away with something like that, it comes with a twist and a tweak. Like PSG in the second half blitz, it had nothing to do with Casemiro because he was suspended, and Camavinga bringing a lot of physicality and throwing bodies around and energy in the second half during that comeback. I think to repeat the KCM midfield just because it's something you've been doing for the past however many years is psychotic, in my opinion. I think it's a bad idea. Casemiro is not press resistant. I think now there's a case for, like, one of the problems last season against Chelsea was that our defense was so bad and Chelsea had so much free reign between the lines that having Casemiro and as security in that sense to organize that the defensive side of things can make sense. But again, Chelsea's going to counterpress you and win the ball back right off of Casemiro after he wins it. And so it's a double-edged sword. But I would like to see Fede in there. Fede or Rodrigo on the right wing. And probably Fede, because I think he has a more guaranteed baseline, and Rodrigo. But I want no part of Asensio. I've been said this so many times. Forget about Asensio starting in a game like this. It's like starting with 10 men. If you're going to play him, at least bring him off the bench. I think he can be more effective in that situation. So I would actually go with, I mean, every position picks itself. Courtois, Militao, Alaba, Mendy. Unfortunately, Carvajal, because there's not really, I mean, you could argue actually Vasquez over there. Last season, the first leg, Zidane did the three at the back thing. And Nacho is just, we didn't have a presence as a right winger because usually Real Madrid, they were trying to switch it to a right back, making an overlap run, and this didn't exist because Carvajal wasn't on the field. So if you can get some production from Carvajal and Vasquez to receive those switches and do something effective, then that's great. I don't necessarily trust either of them to do that right now, but it is what it is. So you gotta pick whoever you pick. Carvajal is a more natural right back, but you could argue Lucas Vasquez is more reliable right now because he's just more in form. So that picks itself, and I'd probably go with a four-man midfield where you have Kroos as the sixth, then you have Camavinga and Modric, and then you have Fede as the fourth midfielder, but he's kind of a pseudo right-winger central midfielder who plays narrow on defense and then explodes out wide and carries the ball up the field on offense, and then obviously Vinicius and Benzema. So that's my answer. Next question is from Varun. He says, this time I have a tactical question because I started my part-time job as a football coach for my school team once a week, so I'm trying to understand different formations and tactics deployed. Against Chelsea, can we use 3-5-2 as the right wing is rendered useless anyways in a lot of ways? And my formation would go something like this. Courtois on goal, 3 at the back, Militao, Alaba, Mendy, and then you have Fede and Marcelo as your wing backs. Modric, Casemiro, Kroos in midfield, Benzema, Vinicius up top.
I think that could work, although I think Vinicius and Marcelo would clash a little in that left flank, and my main concern is obviously the fact that I don't think Marcelo is capable of playing such an intense and an important game anymore at this point of his career. Do I think that if you are forced to play Marcelo, that's probably his best position? At this point of his career, yes, but I don't think he's suited to play such an important game. So I will try to find a different option for that role, although I don't think Real Madrid have that kind of player. On the opposing flank, having Fede there makes sense, but that left flank is the one that worries me a little bit more if Real Madrid were to use that formation against Chelsea, which I don't think is going to happen. But again, my main concern about this lineup that Varun exposes is probably the Marcelo position, yeah.
As a reminder, we have past trauma with 3-5-2 versus Chelsea. Zidane tried this versus Chelsea last season.
Yeah, but with a different lineup that was more crazier than this one, in my opinion. Like Vinicius as a right back was
So the one versus Chelsea last season was just gonna bring it up here, make sure I don't get this wrong. Militao, Varane, Nacho. This is the first leg. Militao, Varane, Nacho, Carvajal, and Marcelo as wing backs. And then basically everything else is the same as. And then the second leg, he went with Militao, Ramos, and Nacho, Mendy and Vinicius as the wing backs. That's just what you were just talking about. And not only a wing back, but a right wing back. So basically, and plus Hazard.
Mendy expected to contribute offensively on the left flank. That's impossible.
And Hazard up top, which is basically playing with 10 people, and then on top of that, Vinicius as your right wing back. So you tell me what gives you a chance of winning, but it's not that. And somehow, like, the first leg was bad, but somehow the second leg was astronomically worse than the first leg. And
Varun's would work better than that one for sure. Again, my main concern would be the left flank. I don't know what you think about this.
So here's what I wanted. I'm actually writing a big tactical preview of the Chelsea game. One of the things, and I'll may spoil a little bit because Varun is asking, but so last season, one of literally hundreds of problems that we had in those two games. But one of the very pertinent ones was we couldn't get into Chelsea's half. And part of the problem with that was Chelsea would let one of our center backs get the ball, but those center backs just weren't able to find passes. And Nacho was the left center back in the second leg. He would get the ball, and he just did not have the ball playing ability that's like a Alaba would right now to play those vertical passes, because we actually had some decent outlets. Like, there wasn't, Chelsea did a pretty good job of staying compact, but the way that Mount and Pulisic and Werner pressed with Jorginho and Kante very in sync behind them, they basically let Nacho and co have the ball, but dare them to make a pass. And Nacho just can't do that in that situation. I trust Alaba more. But if you put Mendy in that position as your left center back, you run into that problem as well that Nacho had last season. And so
Mendy is not good for this formation. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
because he's not good for playing the ball as a center back, as a left center back in the 3-man defensive line, and he's not good enough offensively to contribute as a left back, as a left full back, in wing back in this formation. So Mendy is not a particularly good player for this scheme.
The other problem with this, Marcelo was a left winger, is a huge theme every time we get destroyed in the last few years.
Right,
is lack of physicality. And Reece James versus Marcelo. Not feeling it. Don't think
not even with Mendy behind, kind of protecting him now. Your wing backs in a 3-5-2, I think your wing backs need to be very physical, fast, and physical overall. I think they need to be down. Valverde fits the bill there, I think. But we don't have that kind of player, and also decent with the ball on their feet. Obviously, because otherwise you would be playing with 5 defenders, not with 3. So Valverde kind of fills that bill, although offensively he wouldn't be that great in my opinion. But again, he's a decent pick. But neither Marcelo nor Mendy are. Each one has a big aspect and a big flaw in their game for that particular position. So I don't think Real Madrid have that kind of player to play as a left wing back in a 3-5-2 right now.